What's happening, everybody? I hope message finds everybody well. Welcome back to the Built for Pressure podcast with me, Will Foden. And today we're going to be going over something that's very close to my heart and how to go from chaos to calm with your health and your performance. As a professional, as somebody who is seeking to develop across all realms of your life, as someone who is usually listening to this, has got some form of underdog syndrome or high achievement complex. They want to keep pushing their limits regardless of what situation they're in. These bottlenecks are the key things that I have found not only as a coach, but I've also personally encountered, and something that is very, very destructive to your performance is not only not seeing both sides of the coin, but living on that chaotic side can only be done for so long. So here are some of the bottlenecks that I see. Number one, as a professional, what most professionals do who especially come into my program, they are trying to binge and purge across most realms of their life, i.e. they've got client engagements, so they have to actually eat whatever's in front of them. They have to drink, they have to have late nights, they have to sort of do their bit of their piece of the puzzle to be a professional to get ahead of the game. But then on the other hand, when they have got downtime, they eat themselves alive, feeling sorry for themselves. They use exercise as a tool to throttle and push themselves and sort of binge and purge for that. And vice versa, what they're not associating it with is that training needs to give you energy. If your training is there to slay you, if your training is there to make you feel better or to push, you think pushing yourself purely on an assault bike is going to get you anywhere, I promise you, and I guarantee you will struggle to develop, not only as a professional, but it's the reason why you have the systemic stress underneath your central nervous system, and hence why everything is a war for you. The biggest flex I have ever seen when it comes down to not just my clients, for me personally, is going into a challenge with a calm and collected head. The only way to have a calm and collected head is to have an energized and healthy body. What most people do is they're trying to pour water on fires that they don't actually understand the cause of. They've got terrible energy, so they smash a load of caffeine. When they finish work, they want to de-stress because they want to drink, and actually stress is an oxymoron. Drinking is an oxymoron. It's hypo arousal. It'll get you hypo arousal at first, which means you'll go underneath that arousal curve, and then what you'll do is you'll become hyper aroused. It sends your nervous system into huge stress purely on the basis of trying to detoxify it. But what most people associate is the emotional bit of, actually, it makes me feel good whilst I'm doing it. It's not. It's the anchor behind it. Why are you so stressed in the first place is what's the biggest bottleneck. Or you do it with food. How many of you know that you eat clean and you eat clean all the time, but yet you still aren't in the shape that you've asked to be in? You still not haven't got the health and the performance metrics that match. It's because what you're not looking at is the seasonality of performance, and also you're not looking at the biggest bottleneck, which usually of things that are boring. Everything that we do in high performance is built in the boring, and what we find across multiple spheres when it comes down to being a professional is it's not a given to have all your protein. It's not a given to drink enough water. It's not a given to get enough time in enough effective sleep. I'm not a fan of saying more sleep, because people that listen to this, I know you guys and ladies are super busy, and someone to get 9 hours sleep who is not a professional athlete in the real world is very difficult. It's how effective your sleep is. But this is the reason why. And a lot of the time when it comes down to it, most of us are, again, I'm never really a person to sort of talk around body image. I think if you look at it from a personal standpoint, those that know my story, I used to be an ex-fat kid. I wasn't morbidly obese. I wasn't Augustus Gloop, but I was a fat boy who had a girl called Freya take the piss out of me in a swimming pool. And that actually, if I'm being super honest, gave me a form of body dysmorphia. I had a 8-pack, would have been 4 years ago, as in fully the most shredded I've ever been. Shout out to Mr. Shane O'Leary if you listen to this. He's a coach I was with. I was in absolute nick, but I was all in, and I was so dialed in with my nutrition and my training that, to be honest, half of my training I didn't enjoy anywhere near as much, because it always was more bodybuilding-esque. The pieces of the puzzle when it came down to my body, even then I would say to myself that I wasn't in good nick. Looking back now, I was in great nick, but my point being is my own sort of mental process around what I look like and what I feel like. It still stems from me being a fat kid. Now, zoom this out and put this into your court. How many professionals do you know that are chopping or always dieting but are in terrible shape? Fellas, if you've got a massive darb and small arms and legs, this is a chronic understanding of having high elevations of cortisol. Now, let's bear with me, go for a little bit of a science lesson. We can talk a little bit about stress management later, but when we are stressed, Obviously, when we see a threat, we increase adrenaline. We then increase cortisol. Adrenaline's like the straight away piece, and then cortisol is the pit that actually liberates blood sugar, so you can fight for a long period of time. Now, if you are in a board meeting and someone's being a weapon, and you're not eating, smashing coffee, and just not actually exercising, you could be in a calorie deficit, but actually be in a form of energy surplus because you've got floating blood sugar in your blood, because you're elevated cortisol for a long period of time. That's why you'll see men who have got huge, massive bellies and they've got small legs and small arms, is that's stress physiology. Women are the same, but it's more around their legs, their bum, and also their around their arms. My point being is usually people don't understand what it is to be a human anymore. What they just associate with is what they're actually putting themselves in is actually to just be whatever corporate professional you're talking about. So what this actually stems into is people that are trying to find balance. Now, for me, balance is, excuse my French, bullshit. Most in 2025, you are your business is you. But the understanding of actually how you need to operate and when is probably the most important piece of this puzzle. What most people do is they don't see that actually that if you are bootstrapping a business, if you are a new CEO, if you're managing a lot of people and your business has hit a huge growth spike, you're not going to be balanced because you haven't been able to stabilize at that frequency yet. So the never-ending chase for work-life balance is the reason why you're getting overwhelmed and frustrated, and why you feel like you're in this chaotic environment the whole time, where actually calmness in that moment is you taking charge of what's in front of you, systemizing your current productivity, which if you haven't done that yet, you'll see across my emailing list and also across other platforms. If you want a training on that called Systemized Leverage, it will teach you around productivity and actually from a neurochemical standpoint, how that actually works with your body. Just DM the word productive on my Instagram, on my LinkedIn. I'll send you it for free, no email needed. That will give you understanding around that level of context of what actual productivity is from a human optimization standpoint, rather than just trying to find balance the whole time, because that's also something that I find that people get into this weird behavior of nothingness and just being in chaotic mindsets, because they're trying to find balance in a thing that can't be balanced yet. And then actually knowing their behavior around themselves. This is if you are struggling with stress at the moment and you are your biggest critic, and even if you have a massive win at work, you never acknowledge it, and even if you try and push your limits from a physical standpoint and it's never good enough, and a lot of corporate professionals now are currently doing high rocks. I haven't actually done one yet. I will do one. I haven't got a pro now in high rocks yet, like half of what Instagram does, but from a point being of actually you're never feeling that you're good enough, you're never feeling like your effort's good enough, you never feel like you're winning. That there is probably one of the biggest bottlenecks to your performance, because if you are continually criticizing yourself, that doesn't mean not holding yourself to a high standard. That does not mean that what you shouldn't be doing is wanting the best for yourself. That doesn't mean you want to not become better. What that does though is give you the opportunity to start seeing the gaps in your performance. What most people do is they don't see that. What most people do is they either see right or wrong, good and bad, and they see black and white with everything, where there's always going to be more. As someone, if you're high achievement driven, you're never going to be fulfilled unless you're on the journey. I said this last week on last week's podcast about most people want to be who are chasing the pursuit of happiness. Actually, it's happiness in the pursuit. I am very, 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 very much driven by money. I don't think many people would like to admit that, and people think it's a dirty word. That is not a dirty word. I'm not looking for Lamborghinis. I'm looking for opportunities. And money gives me opportunity. But an example, it's not a case around how much money you earn. It's the person you become earning that level of money. That's what I'm interested in. Because if you're entrepreneurial, if you're pushing yourself, disassociating the fact that you're grinding your ass off to push yourself to the new limit without wanting to get compensated for that is absolutely futile, because so many people get they feel guilt around saying, I want to earn X. Well, actually it's not. It's the person you become doing that is the most important piece. So again, the bit around you and understanding what drives you is imperative, but actually if we take it a little bit further back when it comes down to the chaotic business, you forget how human you are. Most professionals that I encounter who are wanting absolutely everything, they have not recognized the need for the human optimization piece in their performance. Whether it's improving their sleep, whether it's actually having some form of social connection, which is one of the biggest drivers of parasympathetic drive for you to go. How many of you, back in the day when your mum and dad went on the piss, when you probably weren't even here if you're my age, what you'd go and do is you go share a pint with your mates and life was good. You have a laugh and you go home, and it actually work wasn't that bad. But how many of us now are continually working until we put the phone down at 9 p.m, have our dinner, go to bed, wake back up again, then get back on my phone and start that cycle again when you've got no joy in your life that is nothing to do with your work? That's why you're struggling with work-life balance, and that's why you keep feeling the stress and the chaos. Is because you never take yourself away and get perspective. Because you associate having downtime as you losing, where elite level performance is built in white space, or we use the third space in Built for Pressure, which is where somewhat of it's for your mental piece. Whenever you're training, where do you get the most amount of gains? It's when you're not training. When you are training, people associate, if you're on your watch counting how many calories you've burnt in a workout, you are missing the point if body composition is your goal. If you're thinking about you being on all the time and you disassociate being off as important, probably even more important, because the more you're off, when you are on, you're more effective. Suddenly you're going to have way better understanding of what we call it rest ethic. How you actually keep yourself operating at a higher frequency. It's not just how you play the game. It's how you sit on the sideline, regenerate, and then get back in the game, which is the most important piece of this puzzle. So when we're looking at it from this way, that's for somebody who feels they're in chaos the whole time. When we're looking at this from a position of how do you find calmness in challenge, which is called equanimity, if you want to look that up, it's a Buddhist term, that actually they have to understand how you see the world and how you're seeing your situation dictates the pace of this. I'm currently taking another mental skills course with NLP, which has absolutely blown my mind. Shout out to Jay Headley and the crew at the coaching room. If you are looking into it, very, very much so would advise to have a look. For coaches especially, you delete, distort, and generalize most of the things that you see. And the actions that you take on them are how you've seen the world. Now, let's take a little bit back. If you're not self-aware, if you're not questioning what you're actually doing, and if you're not having any form of reflection, you're going off emotions. You are going to delete and distort and generalize information to make it fit the landscape for you. Now, those who are operating at a seriously high level, they have not only got the ability to self-regulate, they've got a corner man. They've got somebody who is objective on their performance, and they've got somebody who is looking with their best interests at heart from a structure and systemization standpoint, not from an emotional standpoint necessarily, because if you're wired like me, you're willing to get hurt in the process. Whether it's physical, whether it's professional, to some degree personal. I would never fight my missus, she'll kick the shit out of me. But you are your own worst enemy. If you have not got the understanding and there is self-reflective practice in place, then that's why you're still in chaos. When you associate your training needs to be additive to your current process. As you get older, the echelons of your training will change. For example, when I talked about being shredded, at that point in my life, I was the head PT of a gym. I was also one of the most senior PTs in that gym. My product was me, but more to the point of it was my self-exploration of my coaching process, and I had nothing else on my plate apart from my performance. Now, I'm a dad, I'm a business owner, I've also got other pressures that from external sources. Am I in bad nick? No. I ran a 110k ultra marathon not long ago. I can still pull 250 off the floor, apart from I'm not going to lie, my back's a bit sore at the moment. I can still perform on different realms. Am I as shredded as I was? No, I'm not. Because other things have got in the way. Now, is that an excuse? It's just not a priority for me. I would much rather enjoy my training, be physically capable, be able to mentally and emotionally perform at my best, and know that I've got gas when I need it, than worry about how much cardio I have, be too extreme on counting my calories and weighing my food when I'm out. And more so, currently right now, diet cutting, getting shredded is not on my priority list. Now, is that a bad thing? No. Is that a good thing? It is for me. Knowing what cycles you are and what training is going to give you is imperative. Currently, as I said, I'm a bit injured. Actually, training for me is for my mental health. So I want to do something that I enjoy. I want to do something that I feel strong with. And I also want something that's going to actually energize my body to be better, because I stand at a desk all day and take way too much coffee. And the Next part of that puzzle when it comes down to it is actually, instead of you just thinking on and off, it's about thinking about optimal and peak. Optimal performance is where how we call it high impact behavior, is how do you lay your morning routine up? How do you lay your bedtime routine up? How do you have a travel routine? As well as understanding what fuels your performance. These are the small bits of that puzzle which are going to give you the keys to the car back when it comes down to feeling calm and collected under challenge. Most people seek for perfect, but if you understand from a morning routine standpoint, you do not need to read 3 bits of a journal, go and do an ice bath, do your breath work, go and speak, 3 affirmations, go and turn your fucking chakras to the left just to make sure that it's aligned with the moon or this kind of bollocks. Whereas if you actually think about a morning routine, what does my body need? My body needs sunlight or light of that level as fast as it can. 2, it needs to hydrate. 3, it probably needs to move. 4, then we start looking at caffeinating. If you're a coffee freak like me, yes, caffeine afterwards. 5, you then look at your phone. But how many of you get out of bed and get onto your phone straight away? From a brainwave standpoint, you're not giving yourself the best chance. It's like driving the car on third. 2, you then allowing the world to dictate the pace for you rather than you dictate the pace for the world. And 3, how effective are you at that time in the morning? When you first get out of bed, your brain is not wired for challenge. If someone challenges you then, you're going to be going through an emotional piece of your brain, hence why you feel chaotic. Giving yourself half an hour to just be you, get your human optimization set up, is going to actually have huge ramifications across the day. Bedtime routine, opposite way around. Making sure the 3-2-1 rule. 3 hours before bed, that's when you have your dinner. 2 hours before bed is when you're probably going to start to dim the lights, and then the last hour is where you actually try and get off as much sort of blue light as possible. That's going to give you the opportunity to lay yourself up wherever you are. Doesn't matter where you have a perfect routine. So yeah, that's understanding those key principles as a human is massively important. And then what we talked about work-life balance. Actually, what work-life balance is about integration. If you find integration into your process, you'll then understand that you acting as a professional is then personally going to help you elevate yourself to a higher standard. You're going to be fitter, healthier, happier because you've systemized yourself from a professional standpoint, and also your training is now additive. That's going to give you the opportunity. Because lastly, what I'd like to do, and just to leave you with this and give you a bit of an insight into about what we're going to be doing at Built for Pressure, is understanding stress physiology. Now, I'm not going in deep science. I'm not going to be telling you around, we talked about cortisol earlier. I'm not going to be going super, super deep for you. What I'd like you to do is to reframe what a stress response is, because this is what happens with people who are chaotic and people that are calm, is they associate challenge as chaos. Well, those are elite level performers when it comes down to whatever realm. They look into chaos as a challenge. Now, reframing stress response to challenge response gives you choice. And if you have choice, you have an opportunity to do this. When stress arises, the first piece of that puzzle is to acknowledge there's stress there and bring it in. You've put yourself in this position on purpose. If you're bootstrapping a business, lock and load. It is going to be fucking hard. So accept that it's going to be hard and go, do you know what? I've put myself here. I'm doing this on purpose, because then you're changing the frame from why me to try me. Yeah? Second is regulate your internal dialogue. The biggest one I want you to think about here is not to make it permanent and make it specific. If you say, hey, this always happens to me, you are then putting it into the field of play that this is always going to be the same. Where if this challenge is happening and it's happening now for a certain reason, is speaking at it like it is specific. And making sure that it's not personal. Obviously, if it is a personal attack on you, very, very different. But how to unpack that then is to understand about how to deal with challenge, which is a totally different part of the game. Then I want you to shift your focus. Shift your focus from a stress response, which is reactive, to a challenge response, which is responsive. What can you take charge of right now that's going to help? That is the key. Because then it's a case of unconscious breath control. What I mean by that is actually getting through your nose as fast as you can. If we look at it from a human biological standpoint, nervous system management standpoint, is if you start breathing through your mouth and hyperventilating, your fight or flight response, you are then going to start getting emotional. Where actually what we need to do is start using the part of our brain that is going to calm us down and get us back in the game as fast as possible. And by doing that, it's getting through your nose. That's why nasal breathing is so important. This is the thing. When it comes down to stress response or that kind of stuff, it's extremely difficult for people to actually not only action, but their perception of what nasal breathing sounds like meditation. Where actually, if you're stood at your desk, like me filming this podcast right now, standing at my desk and I start to hyperventilate, I start to speak too fast, or I start to get sweaty hands because someone's challenging me on my phone or whatever. Take a breath. Re-regulate. get yourself back in the game. What can you take charge of? And usually the first thing you can take charge of is how you're breathing. Slowing it down, going through your nose, we can be geeky around going through your vagus nerve and that kind of stuff, but layman's terms, that's how it's going to get you to get to the last bit, which is then body scan. This is a term they use in the military, is looking, but instead of looking for bullet wounds, you're looking for tension. If you're shrugging up to your ears and you know that you're really tight, internally telling your body to calm down and put your shoulders down, up and back, and actually go into a power positions to stand up as well, by the way, that is actually going to help you. So I hope that helps. That is a one strap guide of how to go from chaos to calm inside of your performance right now. As a professional, if this is resonate with you, I'd love to hear more from you. If you do feel like you are all over the shop when it comes down to your performance at the moment, and you just feel like you're reactive, you can't actually get a grip of something, or you're in your head too much and you're unsure how to unlock that, I'd love to get to know you. Not trying to work with you unless it's the right thing for you, more from a place of if I can point you in the right direction, show you what you should be doing, or give you the keys to your car back with your performance and actually give you something else to look at rather than just the chaos that you can see. It's showing you how to systemize that and where that should be. I'm happy to help you. Drop me a DM. I Will Foden on LinkedIn or on Instagram. I'd like to get to know you. Anyway, appreciate your time and patience, everybody. I hope everyone's good. If you know, like and share as per usual, and let's get some more people on board this podcast. I'll catch you soon.